Tonight we got all excited and we scheduled a show about the American justice system. We went out there and we couldn't find it. So we decided to do a show on the American judicial system. That we found. I talked to several judge friends of mine and how they live. Every single one of them lives in a house with bars on the windows, bars on the doors. They talk about their alarms on their houses, their alarms in their cars. They talk about having to go to work at different times of the day so that they don't set a pattern. They go into a courthouse through different doors than the public. They have catacombs back there that they don't use the same thing. They talk about having bulletproof desks. Who is in prison here? We have talked, and I talked to many people all over the country, and they all have a horror story.
There are far too many horror stories, and while I agree with you that there are some excellent judges out there, even those judges, I think, are hobbled by a justice system that seems to be bereft of common sense. We're seeing decisions that are pulled out of the thin air, case law that is accumulating, that's in direct conflict with a whole group of other case law. We don't see any consistency, and a lot of us are saying, where is the common sense? Is there any common sense left?
The courts are now reviewing procedure instead of content. It's how you present something, not what you present. Just last week we had a doctor on who told us of her experience in the courtroom where the judge said, your innocence is not a matter in this case. This is not about your innocence.
What rules do we have as citizens to go by to expect to receive any consistent justice if none of this matters? And people are becoming very angry. They're becoming physically ill. They're becoming emotionally ill because the only resource that we have in this country for justice is our court systems, and our court systems, unfortunately, in too many cases, they're letting us down.
Well,
they're just letting us down.
Work.
When the papers come out and they say that the criminal justice system is broken beyond repair, or Judge Edith Jones tells Harvard School of Law that the legal system is corrupt beyond recognition, these are people who we should believe. And they have no reason to say this. Judge Napolitano wrote quite an expose on it. Catherine Cryer wrote a book, The Case Against Lawyers. A lot of data is collecting to show us that they know it's broken.
Mm-hmm.
The missing piece seems to be what to do about it.
Isn't that you and me? And the people who have basically allowed this to happen? That's the American.
It's important for people to know that the Founding Fathers really recognized the possibility that this type of a situation would occur. When they said that the germ of the seed of our destruction is in our judiciary, they warned us. They said, keep an eye on these people. Mm-hmm. If you give them power, Lord Acton said power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We were given all of the warnings. Some people say when we put up a Statue of Liberty on the East Coast, that we should have put up a Statue of Responsibility on the West Coast. Yeah, I tend to agree. We went to sleep at the wheel as the American public. Government has done what government tends to do, which is to procreate,
right.
Is to grow larger.
It does.
It tends to do that.
It's like a big fat pig. I mean, I don't know how else to put it, but that is exactly what government has done.
A bit of an insatiable beast. We put that together with the fact that the attorneys have created almost a monopoly on the legal system and have convinced the rest of us that we can't function in a court system without them. It's expensive, it's burdensome, it's abusive, it's a problem. There's no, cut and dry, it's a problem.
And I really feel for the poor guy that goes into the courtroom waving the Constitution. He is beaten down, he's called names, and I had the same thing said to me by a judge. A judge looked me right straight in the eye and said with venom, "You're a constitutionalist, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, aren't you?" And that was the worst thing I could possibly say. The arrogance is beyond any comprehension of mine. And of these judges.
To me, it actually and I know these are really strong words, but it really verges on insanity. Some of the things that the judges have been doing and have been getting caught doing, we're talking about a community that even the legal community itself really is admitting that they have a higher incidence than the rest of the population of emotional illnesses, alcoholism, drug abuse. They're not necessarily an emotionally well community, but in order to be, say, a police officer, you have to pass a psychological exam. There are no psychological exams for judges anywhere, and these are people who take our lives into their hands.
And judge us.
And judge us and can create problems and hardships for us that we may not even in our lifetime be able to overcome.
Back to Judge Roy Moore again for just a minute. It made the news, and he basically lost his case that for trying to say he could have the Ten Commandments. I mean, I couldn't even believe it existed in the first place. But what most people don't know is the citizens, the people in Alabama, paid $550,000 to the Southern Poverty Law Center when he lost his case. Morris Dees, what a piece of work he is.
And yet, isn't it true that on the building, the Supreme Court building, that they have the Ten Commandments there?
Right on the top of it.
What is the irony? The irony, we're up against it. I think that what's happened in this country, too, with regard to the judiciary, is fairly clear that people in power have figured out that whoever controls the judiciary of this country controls everything.
Absolutely.
And this is going on. The jury system is the basis of a system that could render sanity, but it's being tampered with, and there's no other way to call it than tampering. If you have to hire an expert firm to choose the people who will render the decision that you want, how can that not be considered a form of jury tampering? But it's being allowed, and companies are making millions of dollars on this. There's something really wrong with that. Well, the old maxim, innocent until proven guilty, is just, it's an old idea. It was a wonderful idea, and may it rest in peace, because
it is gone.
It's gone.
Right.
They assume, and the burden of proof is on you. They don't seem to understand that justice is a part of the human makeup, and if you deprive a person of justice on a continuous basis, it's really an attack, and not to get religious or anything, but it's an attack on the human soul. We have, as societies, evolved ideas of justice, and we've done that because human nature needs justice and it needs resolution. And if you deprive somebody of that long enough, they're going to have a reaction. Now,